If it's a day called today, we're talking guitars and life. Well, welcome back, my friends, to another exciting episode of Ted Talks Guitars and Life. In today's video, we are going to adjoin that guitar body with that guitar neck. That is the Squier body and the Squier neck that RJ, thank you very much RJ, over at RJ's Cave graciously donated. Those are T's ST1 electronics jack. I have donated to the project the locking tuners, the Siafu locking tuners, my brand of Fender rolling string guides jack, and a pure tone output jack. So guys, we've done a lot of work. If you want to catch up on the project and see where we are, what we've done, you can check the playlist below for a full description and the details of this guitar collaboration giveaway jack. Again, special thanks to RJ's Cave for his very generous donation of the guitar and the electronics. My task at this point, given the work we've done so far, is to put this guitar together, set it up, ship it off to Fretnot, and Fretnot's gonna give this guitar away to one of their viewers. If you don't subscribe to Fretnot, guys, don't miss out on the opportunity not only to possibly win this guitar, but those guys, man, Rob and Colton, man, they give a guitar away, it seems like every week, Jack. Go out and subscribe to Fretnot. You won't be sorry, guys. Well, all right, man. Grab you a pretzel, a Diet Coke, a cookie, a bagel, whatever time of day it is, OJ and popcorn, who knows, Jack. But you get a snack, man. Meet me back at the workbench. Let's get into it. Well, okay, friends, we have one guitar neck adjoined to one guitar body. Yeah, so I opted to put 9s on the guitar. I went back and forth between 9s and 10s. Look, I don't know who's going to win this guitar. I don't know what kind of strings you're going to want on it, but for me, I'm just thinking Strat 9s. That's just the way I roll, man. Hey, you guys do you, man. A couple of observations before we get into setup. One observation is I'm particularly pleased to see that our neck placement is pretty good. You can tell those strings are pretty much dead bang on those magnets. So that's fantastic. You'll also be able to tell that our saddles are all but, they're pretty horizontal right now. And sorry, I'm shaking the camera, but hey man, you guys knew that. Hang on the channel, you expected that. Oh, by the way, if it's your first time, welcome, Jack. That said, our string height is atrocious. And there's tons of relief in that neck right now. And that nut, man, that is really not cut well. And RJ did tell me it was a tusk nut, but it has not been cut. Filed is what I mean, appropriately. So, yeah, man, that's kind of what we're looking at right now. So, yeah, guys, in the video coming up, what we're going to do next, we're going to tune this guitar. We're going to set our relief. Guys, I can only set it up according to my player preferences. So again, if you win this guitar, I apologize that it's set up for my Neanderthal hands and my playing style. I trust that you'll be able to remedy whatever ails you in relationship to this guitar. It is a project guitar, man. It is not perfect in any way. However, I'm going to do my best to make this a rock and roll machine, Jack. Now all this guitar needs is a good setup, my friends. Let's get into it, Jack. So let's talk about the Squier Strat and what we're going to do today. All right. So in previous videos, I put the guitar back together. I've put our strings on. I have tuned the guitar. I have looked at the action, the truss rod. Right now, we've got just a smidge of clearance. And that's what I'm looking for. And so now we're going to go to the nut. So let me get you down here where you can kind of see this a little bit better. Okay, this guitar has a tusk nut on it. However, RJ, who provided the guitar, told me that it did have a tusk nut, but it has not been properly cut or really set up. The guitar hasn't been set up, that's why it's in my shop. Okay, that's my part of the giveaway, upgrade a little bit. And set it up, move it on. So you'll see, if I hold down the 3rd fret on this bass string, you see all that real estate I have? Look at this play right here. I'm trying to do it where you can see it. See all that? All right, that's evidence number 1, okay? Now we could do a more scientific thing. You remember 0.018, i.e. 45 mil. That's not, all day long you can get that under there. You could probably stack a couple of them on top of each other. Look at that, man. Look at that. That's the 0.018 and 0.016 stacked on top of each other. In other words, guys, there is way too much room. These nut slots are too high. There's too much room here. See how hard I have to push down on that string? Imagine you're trying to play guitar and you've got to push that hard to get notes. You're not going to play that guitar very long. You're going to think you're going to blame the brand. It's a budget guitar. No, your nut ain't set up right. Second thing, let's look at the movement of the string at the 12th fret. So if I come this way, see, get you in here where you can see the, all right, here's the 12th fret, there's the string, right? Watch this. You see all that play in the string, way down the neck? All right, 2 signs that your nut slots are too high. Sign number 1, the real estate between the string and the fret on the 1st fret, all that room. Second sign, hold it down, do this, all the movement in the string down here. All that said, guys, this guitar is in need of a setup, which is why it's in the shop, right? So we need to do a couple of things. One, we need to follow those nut slots where these strings are lower. 2, I need to sand the nut overall, because you really only want about half of the string living in that nut. You don't want it buried in there, okay? So a couple of things you may notice that I've got a string tree missing. I removed that string tree so that I could attempt to get my long Fender 316 tool in the truss rod hole. You can do that on a lot of guitars. It really depends on the angle of the truss rod. I've seen all different kind of things on the guitars I've had through the shop, mostly budgets, and so who knows. So I do have a truss rod tool here that I've labeled 316. So I have set my truss rod where I want the truss rod to live, okay? So we're all good on that deal. All right, so I've got my capo, which we're going to need. I've got two of these gauges here, both a nut gauge and a string action gauge, truss rod gauge, and a nut height gauge. Get it right, Ted. I got the Music Nomad nut files, which we're actually going to use. I do have my Solo Music pickup height adjustment tool. That's just what I use. I heard a guy say recently, man, just put the pickup as high as you can. I don't know how you guys roll, but this has served me well. It's got a thick end for the bass side and a thin end for the treble side, and it's bent because I tried to use it as a and that did not work out for me. Not on this guitar. Don't panic, whoever's going to win it. All right, guys. Well, I'm going to pull up a chair. I'm going to get to following that nut check. Stick around, guys. This ought to be a good ride. I recently did a vid in which I talked about filing a guitar nut. And yeah, man, maybe you saw that, maybe you didn't. I'm not going to go through every nook and cranny of that video with this guitar. However, I will make point you to it, is what I'm saying. So I'm going to use my Music Nomad files. And guys, I'm only using the Music Nomad diamond files because I bought them. I have them, so I'm going to use them, Jack. It's just the way I'm going to roll. So the first order of business when you're working on a guitar nut is to assess whether or not you have a high string. Whether or not, what should the right distance be? And there's a lot of people who would say that everything in guitar playing is player preference. If you hang on the channel, you've heard me say that a number of times. But when it comes to actually setting the guitar up, there are some guidelines. Okay, maybe there's no rules, but there are a lot of guidelines. Okay, and the first rule of thumb is that when you cut your guitar nut, when you file it, you need to be very careful because, guys, if you cut that nut too far down, you are going to have all kind of buzzalicious, man, when you play open strings. So I'm just checking it right now. The guitar I used in the video where I talked about a good guitar nut action was the MWS guitar I won from the good folks at Fret Not. And one of the things that I like about that guitar is the action at the first fret. And so that guitar, if I held down the third string and I could get this one piece of paper through it, no problem. Two pieces of paper I could not get through there. So this is not a scientific measurement. By the way, I was talking to Cal today, and Cal was talking about how he uses a .17, I think he said, gauge, a 0.017 gauge on the third fret or something. He called it the Scar My Guitar method. You might check out Cal's channel for that vid. Guys, there's a lot of different ways you can do this. So one, I'm filing the nut slot down so that my string is closer to the first fret. Now I'm going to have to cut this nut. I'm going to have to file the whole thing down because all the strings are too high. And so if I get my nut slot, my string slot, sorry guys, if I cut this slot deep enough for the action that I want at the first fret, okay, this string is going to be buried in that nut. So I really need to file down the entire top of that nut because you only want about half of your guitar string to live in that nut, and you don't want it. You should be able to pull the string out of the nut without it catching. Okay, you see how that's catching right there a little bit? Or maybe it's just I need to be stronger than the guitar string. The E is the hardest one to do that to. If I did that, this is under string tension. You should be able to lift your string out of that nut slot without it catching. You see how that kind of... And so what that tells me is, look at this one. you need to open the slots up. That sounded prescriptive. I'm going to open the slots up because what I know is that if that nut slot is too taut in there, if it's too tight, then that means that my string is going to get caught up in there, and that's going to affect tuning stability big time. Okay, so I'm thinking through what I want to do first. I was thinking I would file the slots first, but it occurs to me that what I probably want to do is file the entire nut down a little bit. Man, in another video, which you guys will see at some point in the future, I broke a string setting the guitar up. That's always a risk that, well, it's always a risk I have. Maybe you guys can do all this better than I can do it. Hey, man, power to you if you can. You do you, Jack. That's what I say. Guys, I am not a luthier, man. I am not a professional in any of this, clearly. I'm just one guy on a journey, man. So nothing I do or nothing I say should be understood as being prescriptive, meaning you have to do it. It's all just descriptive of my particular journey with all things guitars and life, man. So I'm going to be moving these strings to the side so that I can begin to file down that nut slot. Now, what are you guys working on today, man? Anybody got any cool projects going on? What's really going on in your neck of the world, man? Your neck of the woods, as it were. You guys got me on in the background, man. You working today? What is up? Now, I could enlist, if you're curious about how far I want to cut my slots. There's so many different ways you can do this. What you want to do is you want to make sure that you've got just a whisper above that nut as kind of a line of demarcation. So you could, in theory, use something like a groove bar. Guys, you don't need a groove bar. You can use gauges. You can use whatever you want. But you just want that to be a whisper above the first fret. If you wanted to use multiple gauges, you could do that. There's all kind of ways to do this, guys. None of this is intended for you to do it like Ted does it. In fact, please don't do anything like I do it. I can be kind of a bonehead sometimes. But I share all of this in the hopes that maybe something that this old knucklehead does might be helpful for you. So I'm just going to take 1500 grit, and I'm going to do this. And I'm just going to file this nut down a little bit. Now, this nut, before I started sanding, was probably 5 or 6 mil. It is 1, 2, 3, a little higher than 4 right now. So when you do this kind of thing, if you don't mind me saying, it's always a dance. It's do a little bit, measure everything. Do a little bit, measure everything. And everything should be done when the guitar is tuned to pitch. So you want the string tension. In other words, for your measurements to really be accurate, you really need to have your guitar in tune. That will put the guitar under string tension, and that will help you in terms of effective measurements. Yes, yes, yes. Ted got a workbench tuner. No expense was too great for Ted to buy his tuner. By the way, when you're plugged into an electronic tuner, you have to have your volume turned up. That's a free tip. Free tips at Ted Talks Guitars and Life, my friends. Free tips. But because so many people had well, we'll call it issues with my use of the headstock tuner for some of this. I went ahead and bought a very cheap workbench tuner. So let me just tune this up. Well, okay, my friends, what was about an hour and 20 minutes for me was less than that for you. So what did we do in this video? I am sorry that I fast forwarded. It's just so long, guys. So what we did is I went through with a series of Music Nomad files, filing down each of the guitar nut slots. I also started with several kinds of sandpaper, started with like 1500, worked my way all the way down to 400 to try to get this tusk nut, man, filed down. Those things are stout, Jack. And I think for right now, I'm good. Now, I started with the nut. However, at this point, what I'm going to do, which will have to be in the next video for you guys to see it anyway, will be I will, again, tune the guitar. It's in tune now, but I'll train it up. I'll tune it. I'll set my relief, again, my neck relief. I will set my action afresh. I will check the intonation of the guitar, and then we are going to revisit the nut just to see if that at that point is there's any little final tweakage to be done, Jack. Well, guys, man, thanks for hanging out with me on another crazy adventure, man. I hope that somehow this was helpful, informative, enjoyable, or edifying in some way. I do not know. Maybe you can learn a lot, at least what not to do from me, man. Wherever that is, guys, I do thank you for any moment that you spend with me watching these crazy videos and being on the journey with me, man. Hey, you guys are the best. Well, as always, wherever you are in your guitar journey, I pray it's a long, smooth, safe, joy-filled ride for you, Jack. Hey, rock on with your bad selves, everybody. Catch you down the road.